Hello and welcome everybody to tonight's webinar, How to Start Your Own Radio Show. I'm Dr. Tabor Smith, and I'm privileged and honored to be here with a very good friend of mine and very successful chiropractor in Albuquerque, New Mexico, Dr. Alan Miner. He's the host of one of Albuquerque's top wellness radio shows, An Ounce of Prevention. And today, you and I are privileged enough to have him here. He's nice enough to be able to share with us his passion, radio, and also some great tips on how you can get your message out to your community to the power of radio. Dr. Allen, thank you for being here with us, and I'm just going to turn it over to you and let you take it away tonight.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tabor. It's really a blessing to be here with everybody. I have a dream. I have a vision, like so many of you listening do as well. I know that the masses will use chiropractic care as a lifestyle choice, that they'll begin seeing their chiropractic care as important as their trip to the organic grocery store or market, as their exercise routine, as their supplement program. It's literally a health investment. And I also understand that, I've heard other speakers and people talk about that vision in chiropractic for a long time, and sometimes as a group, maybe we feel a little beat down, or that seems like that's a long way off in the distance, but that's what this time right now is about, is to ensure you that it's not that far in the distance, and you can be a key player in driving the success of your practice and your family's livelihood towards that vision. Again, my name is Dr. Alan Miner. I'm a chiropractor in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I've had the humble privilege to build our practice all the way up to seeing 1,100 people a week, serving 1,100 people. We now have 4 clinics in the Albuquerque area, and I oversee our operations for that. And I can tell you that our main marketing strategy for growing our company, the reason we've been able to expand the way that we have to this point and our continued expansion, is because of radio. Radio is what will help you to create a culture that will help the masses understand what chiropractic is, how it can benefit them, and will drive hundreds, if not thousands, of people into your office. My goal with this program is to help encourage chiropractors in every single community to get on the radio. That's my vision. If we have a chiropractor friends in every community around the planet, amazing things can happen. We can begin to really steer the conversation and the culture and the community's understanding of what it is that we as chiropractors have to offer. It's my opinion that the single most untapped market with an audience that's often undistracted is radio, and particularly when you zero into the stations with a very loyal listenership, which I teach you how to do with my program. Think about it. And don't misunderstand me. Our offices, we still use a lot of different forms of marketing, spinal screenings, health talks, advertising. We have a billboard up in town right now. We use all these different things, but what I've come to understand is they really do pale in comparison to the results we see from radio. And I think one of the main reasons that is so is because you're competing for mind share. You're trying to distract somebody and get their attention, whether they're walking by your screening booth or you have a billboard or a Facebook or Google ad or a direct mailer. You don't have a captive audience. And what happens in radio is when we're driving, we are less distracted. You have that radio on. There's not email and a smartphone and all these different things flying at you. And particularly when you find a radio station that has a very loyal listenership, and there's a certain set of those stations that are out there, all of a sudden you have this captive built-in audience that's ready to hear your message. They're absolutely primed to hear it. I want to share a story of a patient of ours. Her name's Jean, and I ran into her last week in the office. Jean first came into us with a bilateral neuropathy in her legs, irritable bowel syndrome, chronic migraine. She had served in the Marine Corps overseas in the Gulf War. She'd been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder at the VA. You all know the story. We have people like this. She came in on a boatload of medications. I believe it was 8 total. And she found us on the radio, and she started getting adjusted, and her body responded beautifully. She began being able to back off on her medication as her health was increasing, and today she's no longer on medication. She's pain-free, and she was really just coming in to us to see if we could help with that neuropathy in her legs. She had no even concept that chiropractic might be able to help with the IBS and the chronic migraine. And of course, I don't know about your office, but our focus really isn't on treating any of those symptoms or conditions. It's on simply affrontating and bringing that spine into an optimal motion, optimal function, neurologically speaking, and all those things resolve themselves. Well, here's what's cool. Jean, now that actually happened, that story, about 6 years ago. Jean still comes to us on a weekly basis. That's what we recommend, weekly checkups. The question's why? Well, in large part, it's because of radio. You see, there's 2 things here I want to address. First, there's definitely a percentage of people who will come in through the radio station who would never respond to you at a screening or a direct mail or a social media campaign. Jean calls herself a lifer in our office, but here's what's fascinating. She won't come to workshops either. And we hold regular weekly workshops in our office as well. What Jean does do is she is a huge fan of our radio show. And so she is getting fed week after week with the principles behind chiropractic care. She's getting fed with the culture that we're creating in our office. And I think you've all seen that when people come for a little while, if they don't get the bigger picture and adopt this as a lifestyle, as an investment, then people don't stay. And radio is, for our offices, and this is hard to quantify. I'll talk a little bit about, what's cool about radio is you see a direct response immediately. You go on the show. If you did a great show, you'll be rewarded with calls immediately. So it's kind of a gauge. But what's not such a trackable metric or measurement is the benefit that you being on the radio brings to your existing practice base. And that is perhaps the most valuable part of a radio show, because we're continually promoting it inside of our offices, and our practice members are listening into the show on a regular basis. They begin to get a better depth of understanding for what we offer. And as you know, when they can then begin to go out and teach what we do to the community, that's when you begin to build an army. That's when you begin to have raving fans that actually begin to build your office for you. But the catalyst for this entire thing has been radio. So let me share a little bit about our marketing history. I've done a lot of marketing, tons of screenings, telemarketing, social media, radio ads, direct mail, killer ads, talks, and we run a lot of stats on that. And when we run stats, all of those things are part of an important marketing calendar, most definitely. But radio, when I look at the use of my time, that half hour or hour time, and then the result and the return on the investment, radio ranks second only to internal referrals, and it's barely underneath internal referrals in terms of not only people coming in, but conversions to care and people staying under long-term care. The return on investment for radio in my time has been absolutely amazing, and that's why I'm such a big fan of radio, and I see it's an untapped market. I mean, why do more of us as chiropractors not do radio? Well, I think there's a few reasons. First, a lot of you don't understand the process. I mean, here's one of the big secrets that was an aha moment for me. Radio is a paid thing. You buy that radio show. I would hear there was an attorney who had a show, and I thought he was just an amazing speaker who must have been a really well-connected guy. And I got to meet him, and he told me, no, I buy this space. Well, the public was like me. Most people don't realize you're buying that infomercial. It sounds like a radio show. It's on their regular radio station. And so that lends to an enormous amount of credibility to you as a healthcare provider, because you're on the radio. It's amazing how that works. I also think that cost sometimes deters a lot of chiropractors. I mean, I find many chiropractors have called radio stations, maybe done a few ads, and here in Albuquerque, on the bigger stations, a radio ad can run $100, $125 for a 30-second spot. Well, that's a little bit, you can't take that number and extrapolate it over to a radio show. You might be thinking, my goodness, what does it cost? Tens of thousands of dollars to do radio. What's fascinating is oftentimes radio shows are cheaper. A half-hour radio show can be cheaper than a radio commercial. It's just amazing how that works, but these stations have airtime on the weekend that they would love to fill with a paying customer, and that you can absolutely utilize to promote what you're doing in your office. I also hear from a handful of chiropractors who dabbled in radio, and so oftentimes they tried it maybe a month or so, and it didn't really work, and that is a shame, and here's why. I feel like I was very fortunate and maybe even lucky in stumbling into the success we've had with radio. And the reason that happened, friend, is because I was unwise enough to actually sign a one-year contract on a very, very small AM Christian radio station right out of the gate for my first radio show. I'll tell you, for starters, we had horrible results. I mean, I remember feeling oftentimes like there's nobody listening to this station. But I think had I not signed that year agreement, like so many chiropractors, I would have said, yeah, I tried radio, it didn't work. Well, I was forced to stick with it because of that agreement. And so I committed to myself and to my team that if I'm paying this, if we're going to be on the air, I'm going to do everything I can to make it as good as possible. And so I started toying with the formula of doing a radio show. And what I found is there is most definitely a formula to generate calls for new patients. And what we've seen happen is when that formula is exercised, the calls increase exponentially. One of our clients using the radio show right now hadn't been doing the close as we teach it, and they were getting 0 to 1 call on their radio show. They had a 400% increase, went up to 5 calls the first week out of the gate. That might sound small, but the difference between 1 call and 5 calls, and they're on a very small AM station. You then, lead into some of the bigger stations in your different communities. It's not uncommon for us on our major station to see 20 to 25 calls these days. Imagine what you do. Are you even market ready to handle 20 new well-qualified people who've listened to you talk for 30 minutes, understand what you're about, what your services are, and the culture you have to offer? It's amazing, friends. And when they come in, there's a celebrity factor. There's a credibility because you are the guy or the woman that they've been listening to on the radio. And that influences the speed of trust between you and that client like nothing else that I've seen. Nothing else compares. Also keep in mind, many people listen for many weeks before calling in. They can feel you out, which I think is a great thing. They really get an understanding of who you are and what you're offering. One of the biggest problems that I saw early in radio and with many of the other forms of advertising that we've done is a gap between the person coming into the office, the patient, understanding what our services are, and this gap between what we want to do. In other words, our goal is marriage. Their goal is a date. Our goal is lifetime family wellness care. If they come in wanting a pop or a crack for this pain in their neck, great, there's a lot of chiropractors in our town that do that. Maybe you offer and specialize in that kind of emergency pain relief care. Our office doesn't. And so when somebody came in wanting one thing, one service that was very different than the service we offered, that created a large potential for a very unhappy experience with our office. We couldn't meet their expectation because that's not what we did. Well, that problem has been eradicated through the radio because when somebody's listened to your show for any length of time, they will understand your values, the culture of your office, and the services that you offer. And then when they come in, they are a great customer because they know who you are, they know what you do, and you don't have that awkward gap between them expecting you to do one thing and you do something else. That, again, is another huge, huge benefit for how radio has worked so well. One of the other things we've done with the radio program that I really encourage you to purchase is I put in 15 outlines for our 15 most popular shows. So many chiropractors are hesitant to get on the air because they're afraid of what content they're going to have. Well, when you follow my formula for how to do the opening of your show, what content to put in the body, when to bring on guests and testimonials, other people onto the show, and then how to do your close, which is absolutely critical. The close that I teach takes about 5 minutes to do, and that's where so many chiropractors make a mistake. When you follow that along with the outline for our 15 most popular shows, it's a guaranteed home run. Your office will begin to fill up with these well-qualified radio people. Now, something else I need to mention, what's so cool about these 15 shows we provide with the program, along with the e-booklet as well, so you can reference things very quickly, and then we also offer 3 classes that explain the process that I use and that I teach. What's so cool about these 15 shows, you have to understand with radio, most people don't sit there at the start of your show and listen for the whole thing all the way through. People are coming and going as they drive. And so you can recycle these shows over and over and over again, and the legs on them is absolutely tremendous. You don't have to be burdened with continually coming up with something fresh or new, because none of your regular listeners even typically hear from beginning to end. People are coming and going at different parts of the show continuously. So that works to your advantage because you don't have to provide as much material. Once you understand how we're structuring the shows, I also encourage you to then bring your own material. If you do workshops or talks, even just as chiropractors, the culture of what we do, the public does not understand. They don't understand how the central nervous system affects all the cells and tissues in the body and the importance of that system functioning properly and the innate intelligence that flows over that central nervous system. That is a foreign concept. As you know, most people maybe think chiropractic has to do with back or neck pain. And although we get tremendous results in those areas, it can be so much more than that. And radio, again, is the venue for you to go into people's homes, go into people's cars, to teach them that. So I'm committed to your success. I really am. I mean, I see too many struggling chiropractors, and this is how we've been able to open 4 offices. I wouldn't have the confidence to do that if we didn't have the power and the engine of these radio shows behind us. The reason I decided to create this program is so that more chiropractors can get right out of the gate starting at full speed. You don't need to take that 6-9 months that I did to develop your skill set. You can have results day one from the radio. You'll have results from your first radio show if you follow my format. It won't take you a year to learn how to build an audience. This is such a small investment in this program if you're considering adding radio as one of your anchor campaigns for your office. It's a no-brainer. You're hedging your bet and you're improving your success rate immediately by learning from my struggles and my years of experience on the radio. I can't possibly think, friends, of a better anchor campaign for your office than your own radio show. Remember, radio creates a culture that allows you to educate the community about what you do and the services that you have to offer. No matter what kind of practice you have, a PI practice, a wellness practice, a family practice, sports, pediatrics, children, pregnancy, when you're the one and the expert on the air talking about it, you're going to attract more of those people. Those are the people you're going to get to care for. And you're the one who has the credibility to actually be on the air. It's an amazing system. It's amazing how well it works to grow your office. So I'm going to turn it back over to Tabor. I encourage you to become a part of our program, purchase the system, and make the second half of this year truly explode and be your best year yet. Again, I'm Dr. Alan Meyer, and I want to thank everybody for taking the time to tune in and listen today. Dr. Tabor, I'm going to turn it back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Miner. That's awesome. And I just want to tell the audience that, I have this program, and it's everything that Dr. Allen just said and more. For those of you who know me, for my friends out there, I follow these types of chiropractors, these successful, I call them principled chiropractors who have mastered the art of taking the message of chiropractic to their community Dr. Miner is one of them. I mean, amongst Dr. Zano, Brad Glowacki, Billy DeMoss, Dan Yachter, Rob Vasquez, and those guys, I mean, it's this type and this caliber of chiropractor that we need to learn from and to take everything that they do and implement it so that we can have the success that they've had. And Dr. Miner has put all of this wisdom inside this extremely affordable kit. And I want to tell you what's in it, but I want to tell you that the value in this kit is absolutely amazing compared to what he is giving this away for. And so what you get in Dr. Miner's kit is his ebook that shows you everything that you need to know on how to start your own radio show. You get 3 how to start your own radio show video classes where he sits down, holds your hand, walks you through step by step everything that you need to know to build a successful wellness radio show. And then here's what I think is just absolutely priceless. It's the 14 different radio shows and outlines that you get. And guys, I'm telling you, you can feel the principle of chiropractic coming out in every one of these radio shows that Dr. Miner does. And he's put these together. I've started to use these radio shows even just as workshops in my clinic because they're so good. And so I can't wait to get on the radio and start to share this with my community. The entire kit is only $997. But what Dr. Miner has done is for those of you that have donated your time and you've listened to Dr. Allen this entire webinar, he wants to do something special for you. For the next 24 hours, you guys can get this entire package, this entire program for $497 by going to wellnessradioexpert.com/webinar. That's wellnessradioexpert.com/webinar. And what I want to do, and just in appreciation for Dr. Miner being on here, is also I want to throw in my spinal screening kit. I sell it every day for $497. And it is an added free bonus for you for all of those who purchase this kit within the next 24 hours. And you get the entire program for Dr. Miner. You get his help. He's going to walk you through. He's going to be right there making sure that you're successful. You get the spinal screening kit. All of that for $497. Just go to wellnessradioexpert.com/webinar. That's wellnessradioexpert.com/webinar. Guys, I want to thank you again for being on the call tonight. And if you need anything, just let us know. Have a great night, and we'll talk to you soon.